Hello, everybody. Let's see if we get this all started.
Niet zo licht vanmorgen achter de muren van zijn huis.
Yep. Okay. Hello, everybody. And welcome to another Saturday evening live stream on the Wimbo Formula channel. And tonight's topic is Yuki Tsunoda. I've done live streams on him before. And they were pretty successful. And now that he's Max Verstappen's new teammate, I thought I'd honor him with a nice little live stream. I haven't really prepared. I've got one article from Motorsport with Helmut Marko, and I'll pick out a few things that he said about Yuki Tsunoda. And yeah, we'll just take it as it comes. You know, sometimes I like to prep these live streams from start to finish, like scripted. But yeah, I didn't feel like doing that right now. So let's say hello to the people in the chat. Hello, Living on the Edge. Nice to see a new face. I saw you were typing in Dutch earlier on, so I assume you're from Holland or Belgium. And Samantha, my darling wife, thank you. Thank you for joining me from the living room downstairs. Always nice. And yeah, like always, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before starting the content. Oh, I just kicked my camera. Got my drink. So, it was kind of nice to have a weekend without Formula One because we started with a double header, and because it's in Oceania and in Asia, the times are pretty rough for us Europeans. Now, I'm not complaining, and I don't mind getting up early, but yeah, if you have two weekends like that in a row, and especially because we were super busy for English Mother's Day, yeah, I haven't had a lie-in for 2 proper weeks, and then this morning I woke up at 7 o'clock as well. But that's enough for me. Hey, Vegas. Nice to see you here again. Are you back home? Did you have a great trip in Australia? And there's Gentiles. Hello, Richard. Thank you for joining. I wonder if Henk is still coming because I posted a video today and he's usually one of the first to comment, and I haven't seen his comment yet. But the video is going well, by the way. Today's video, it's a banger, which is nice because I haven't had a banger in a while. That happens sometimes. It's no biggie. So are we all excited about Yuki Tsunoda? Because that's what we want to find out in the next hour. If we're all happy and excited for Yuki. You know what? I'll just start off with a poll. Is Yuki going to be successful at Red Bull? Yes. No. Is successful with double S? I can't spell anymore. Oh well, you get the idea. Hello, the crystal chassis. The crystal chassis. I haven't seen your name in my chat before, so welcome. And I'm also very excited for the white livery because it has been a dream to see that one in Japan again since 2021. It was meant for the Japanese Grand Prix then, and that fell through because of, I think it was Corona. And they raced in Turkey, but they had this special livery, and it was amazing. And we all loved the Racing Bulls livery already because it was based on that. And now, because Red Bull is getting some really bad press for swapping drivers so early in after two races, they said, you know what? We need a little bit of positive energy, a little bit of positive public of PR, and we're gonna paint the car white and do the Japan livery again. Gentili says this is going to be a very interesting. It's going to be very interesting in any case. Oh, it will be because there's a lot of people that think um, Liam Lawson is going to do better than Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson is going to be in the Racing Bulls, which is an easier car to drive. Yeah, Richard, I think Kvyat had a season and then 5 races in which he torpedoed Vettel a couple of times, twice in one race, I think. And then, Helmut Marko was adamant to put Max in, and then in the very first race that Max drove the car, he won in Spain. That was amazing. Right. But, let's talk about Yuki. Why is this here? Yes, that's better. Hey, Polish Eddie. How's it going, buddy? And you're not that late. You're only 8 minutes late. That's okay. We always like you dropping by, Eddie, even if it's only for a couple of minutes. I saw your race review, but I watch it on my TV, which is my my private account, and I can't leave a comment then. I keep my Wimbo Formula One account for other stuff that I need for editing and stuff. So, Yuki Tsunoda. Hey, there's Hank. Hello, good evening, Hank. Let's look Yuki Tsunoda up on Wiki. So, he was born in Sagamihara, Kanaga. And he started karting when he was 9. And then very early on he got into the Honda project, the Dream project. And he gradually built himself up. I know his father was one of those racers where the cars, they drift the whole time. That Japanese drift racing, but I forgot the name of it. He didn't win any big prizes like like Formula 2 and stuff. I think he finished second or third. He won the Japanese F4 championship. And he finished third in his rookie season for the Formula 2 in 2020. And then he went to the AlphaTauri team with Pierre Gasly, which is pretty much his best friend. And after that, he was partnered up with Nick de Vries, who he beat. He was partnered up with Daniel Ricciardo, who he beat. And now he was partnered up with Hadjar. And 2 races in, he's at the Red Bull team, what everybody wanted for him anyway. Hello, Pete, Rotterdam. I don't have to ask where you're from. Yeah, so Keep Ewing wants to know what happened with Verstappen. I didn't see the leaks. Well, not much happened with Verstappen, just that he made it clear that he wasn't happy with Liam Lawson getting replaced so early because it had nothing to do with the driver. It had everything to do with the car itself, and he wants to focus on the car. What I did explain in the video I released today is that whenever the Verstappen clan wants something out in the open, they talk to the Telegraaf, which is a Dutch newspaper, and they talk to a man called Peter van Haren, of no, Erik van Haren, sorry. And yeah, whenever Erik van Haren has a scoop, it's always something from the Jos Verstappen or Max Verstappen camp. He's kind of their outlet. Just like, Mercedes has Sky Sports F1 as their outlet, and Ferrari has that pink Italian paper as their outlet. So no, there wasn't any big massive leaks or anything dramatic going on with Max Verstappen. Just that he was really pissed off, and I think it might lead to him leaving because yeah, if Red Bull keeps focusing on second drivers and driver swaps instead of fixing the car, then there's no point in him staying there. So let me see some more stuff about Yuki Tsunoda. See, I heard that Liam Lawson beat him most of the time whenever they were partnered together in championships. Did you guys know that he prefers to drive with the number 11, but because Checo Perez had that, he doubled it and it became 22? I just read that. That's interesting. It's funny because a lot of drivers in Red Bull have double numbers, or a lot of drivers in Formula 1. Like Max is 33 and Carlos Sainz is 55 and Valtteri Bottas was 77. Hi Jasper. Welcome, buddy. So Keep Ewing says, I mean, honestly, I'll be really impressed if Yuki does well in Japan. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to make this a positive live stream. And, when we saw him his first season. He had a couple of really good races, especially the last one where he finished fourth. But something else happened in 2021, the last race. So nobody talked about Yuki Tsunoda finishing fourth. Um, if you know, you know. Um, but he is definitely in that first year, he wasn't very reliable, and he was also very angry all the time. And if his engineer asked him, "How does the car feel now?" and he would just say, "It feels shit," or "It feels bad," or "It feels," instead of saying, "Hey, I need a little bit more front wing," or technical things. And then the second season, he improved on a lot of things, but there was still a lot of unnecessary crashes. I think it was in his second year where he was in a really good position, and he just pushed too hard on cold tires out of the pit, and he crashed. Yeah, and that didn't please the bosses at Red Bull. And then I don't remember so well what happened in the third season. Like, there was one season where the car was really good. That was maybe 21. And then there was a few poor seasons, but he always managed to beat his teammates, even the likes of Daniel Ricciardo. So even though the car was uh, hard to handle at times, he still managed to beat his teammates and got something out of it. But it was always kind of under the radar. Now, I always loved him as a character. You know, um, you can tell that he still struggles with his English, um, and he's so genuine that if if he practiced saying something, then you can hear that he's been practicing saying that. Sometimes it comes out a little bit too um, rehearsed, but he has to do that because, yeah, it's his second language. Hey, Bravo Johnny. Good evening. I don't consider emotion as a weakness. No, I don't consider that as a weakness either. But, if you're talking to your engineer and the engineer gets an earful of explicit instead of useful information, then it's not handy, you know. Um, Sometimes it's better to keep your cool and, yeah, explain exactly what the hell is happening, so you can um, improve everything. Gentili says the car might be genuinely terrible, but Max is making it work somehow. Yeah, you're talking about the RB21. Yeah, I think he'll get more out of it than Liam Lawson did, but I don't think he's going to be within 3/10 of Max. I'll be happy if it's half a second, and that would see him into Q3, which is pretty much a win already, because we're the bar is so low after what Liam Lawson did in that car, that any kind of results, if Yuki Tsunoda finishes 3 races as 10th, then it's like, hey, that's 3 points. So yeah, he's lucky, that the bar is set so low. You're not going to win the constructors that way, though. So yeah. So I have this article here with Helmut Marko. I think I'll just flip the screen. Okay, this is going to be trippy. Okay, and then I'm going to make this big. Okay. So this is an article on motorsport. And Marko says, we're not dropping Lawson, we're saving his future. And I kind of agree with that, because, if Lawson was kind of destroyed now because of the bad results, he would be far, far, far worse if this had continued any longer. And this is why Liam Lawson welcomed the swap to Racing Bulls. And Helmut Marko says that it's not a demotion because the Racing Bulls is pretty much as competitive or easier to drive, so even more competitive. So in that sense, it's not a demotion. It's just a different team. So he's asked Helmut Marko if it was a mistake to pick Liam Lawson over Yuki Tsunoda. And let me see what he says there. Oh no, this is not the bit. Okay, so he says, and at the same time we have to acknowledge that the RB21 is difficult to drive. It's not the fastest car, and the gap in performance just kept growing. But back on the topic of being demoted, we mentioned Gasly. He later came back into strong form and is now a very successful Grand Prix driver with Alpine. The same applies to Williams' Alex Albon. Everyone had the same fate next to Max, and they bounced back and found their form again in a less competitive environment. Now, I agree with this. I've been fighting people on Twitter about this, saying that, oh, Red Bull's ruthless and they're mean and whatever. But being dropped from the main team, there's still a safety net with the sister team. And the sister team has been very handy for the likes of Albon and Gasly. And Kvyat, when he was dropped, he still had that season and another season to prove himself, to drive so well that another team might take him. But he didn't do that, so he ended up in DTM or WEC Racing. He just went somewhere else. And that's another thing. You know, if you're with Red Bull, then there's also different series that you can drive. So it's not like when you're dropped from F1, you're completely out of the sport, unless you want to, because Daniel Ricciardo, he joined Racing Bulls to work himself up to Red Bull again, and that didn't happen. So yeah. Yeah, the Motorsport asked Helmut Marko here if it wouldn't have made sense to let Liam Lawson drive in Suzuka, a track that he knows well. And Helmut Marko says, well, it was a unanimous decision on our part. Earlier in the race, we tried different setup. He was simply on the ropes like a boxer. And when a boxer is on the ropes, you take him out of the ring. But in this case, we have a safety net of our unique opportunity with the second team. So we're keeping him in Formula 1. Okay. Now, let's find stuff about Yuki. Yeah, he says something about Yuki. Oh. On the other hand, Yuki, strange as it may sound, is really strong in his 5th season now. As an overall personality, he's physically much stronger, he appears very confident, and he's delivered 2 excellent races. And why not wait longer? Well, we want to win the 5th World Championship with Max. The car, as I said, is tricky and not the fastest. So it's really important that we have a second driver who can support us strategically during races and contribute to the car's development. I also agree with that, because if you get Yuki Tsunoda, say in the top 5, top 6, you know, you can pit him later so he can hold up drivers, or you can pit him first to try and undercut on the driver in front, forcing them into a pit stop. So yeah, well, let me go to the chat and we'll jump back to the article later. Yeah, I'm back. Okay, let me see what everybody's saying. Hello, Slowpath. Bonjour. I see you're all chatting amongst yourself, which is good. Bravo Johnny is talking about Fisichella. Did he always have like really explosive radios? And there's Alice Coppenol. Yes, we're all looking forward to Yuki's team radios. Do you remember when he said, this guy needs a brain check, or this guy needs a brain scan to check to see if he has brains. Let me see if I can find that. Yuki Tsunoda radio check for brains. No, I can't find it. Right. Does anybody know what he said about, this guy needs a brain scan to check for brains? Hello, El Renzo. Welcome. Hello, Dutch Romanova. Welcome to our chat. Hey, Pramod. Good day, sir. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I see we have 25 people watching now, so I think I can put this one up again. Yes. Okay, let's go back to the article. Because that was interesting. It was an interesting article. So, Motorsports asks Helmut Marko here. Now, in the media, there's a suggestion that you would have preferred to put Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull seat for 2025 already last year, and that Christian Horner had a different opinion. Is that true? And then Helmut Marko, he goes all political here, and he says, all decisions were made unanimously. Yuki Tsunoda is a fast driver, we know that, but he had his ups and downs. That's why we thought Lawson was the better and stronger candidate. But as I mentioned, Yuki has undergone a transformation. He changed his management, and in this situation, this was simply the best option. Because even in Suzuka, although Lawson knows the track, on the other hand, Hajar didn't know China either and was immediately on the pace, almost as fast as Yuki, at least in qualifying. So he kind of skips that question if he wanted Yuki in already, and it was Christian Horner that blocked it. Okay, and the next question is, were you surprised by Yuki's performance so far this year? Or put differently, was it not just about Lawson underperforming, but also about Yuki performing better than expected? And then Helmut Marko says, yes. One was below expectations, and the other was surprisingly positive. You also mentioned earlier that when the decision was made, Okay, yeah, this is all about Lawson. Okay, and then they ask Helmut Marko about testing. How important or decisive was Yuki Tsunoda's test last year in Abu Dhabi, where he drove for Red Bull Racing, for what has now happened? And as a follow up, is it fair to assume that internally the decision had already been made at that point that Lawson would be driving? Yuki's test in Abu Dhabi was no longer decisive. As I said, Yuki had his ups and downs. I remember the 2 crashes in Mexico, for example. He simply wasn't as stable as he is now. And again, we want to win the 5th World Championship, and the car isn't absolutely capable of winning, although we're not as far off as it sometimes looks. We could see that with Max in the final stint on the hard tyres. The last 10 laps were on par with the front runners, although Piastri probably wasn't pushing anymore because he didn't have to. But still, I'd say we would have finished behind the McLarens. We were faster in the race than the Mercedes. Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah. So basically, he's explaining here that they promoted Yuki because he was in great form, and they think he can play a part in helping Max get his 5th championship. And it's nice to see that that's the priority. They don't really care about the Constructors' Championship. They just want Max's 5th. That's also what I want. And yeah, I just really like that that Yuki can be a part of that, and I really hope that he manages to play a big part in accomplishing that. You know, have a car in the top 5, top 6, and I would love to see Yuki on a podium, but maybe that's a little bit too much to ask. Would it be too much to ask if he does what Bottas did in 2021 in Hungary? You know, just take a few front runners out, like the 2 McLarens and George. You know, people said at the time that's racing, so I don't know if it's still racing now. You know, probably not. So let me see how the chat's going. Dutch Romanov says Yuki will activate secret Honda mode. First race in Japan will be special. If he can adjust to the car without losing trust, he can be something. The dude is truly hungry without the British cockiness. That's a really good point. What if Honda has a secret engine mode that they don't want to give out, but because it's Yuki, they're going to do it? And then it looks weird only to do it for Yuki. So it's going to be a 1-2. A 1-2 in Suzuka. Oh my god. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Alice says Yuki is going to do just fine. He really has nothing to lose, and he will have the honor of being the first Japanese driver in a top team for a very long time. Yep. Becky Beautiful. Wimbo. The handsome version instead of Martin Brundle or Tom Coronel. Wow. I've never been called handsome. Thank you, Becky. Pete Rotterdam. Thank you for reminding people to hit that like button. Let me see what I'm gonna pick out here. Tap that like button, says Polish Eddie. Okay. It's a pretty long article. Now, guys, if you don't want me to read this out, then let me know. This piece is about Ralf Schumacher. Yeah. There's been some pretty harsh criticism. For example, from Ralf Schumacher, who said, "If I were Tsunoda, I wouldn't accept this. No test, no preparation." And he said, "I think we're burning two drivers here. No one is helped by this. Why, in your view, is it still a good idea to put Yuki in this car, of all places in Suzuka, where everyone will be watching him?" And then Helmut Marko says, "Once again, Yuki is in his 5th year, and experience in such difficult conditions is an enormous factor. Yuki has repeatedly emphasized that he's actually the right man for Red Bull Racing. We gave him 2 or 3 simulator sessions, and those were very good. Also, his technical feedback, something he had been criticized for in the past, was very solid." So yeah, he had simulator sessions after the race in China, and they were positive. Yeah, and here it's explained that Yuki Tsunoda, even if he wanted to say no, he couldn't. And here's an important part where they ask Helmut Marko if there's a sort of a benchmark now for Tsunoda. If you do this, we'll be happy. And Helmut Marko says something very important here. He says, no, he doesn't have to worry. But don't forget, Liam Lawson qualified 20th twice, and that's difficult to do worse than that. And then here they talk about how Honda is involved, and Helmut Marko says that the $10 million that Honda paid for the swap wasn't decisive, and it wasn't the motivation about the decision. So that's nice to know. Yeah, here's a bit about whether Daniel Ricciardo was considered, but he said no, that was never considered because Daniel Ricciardo is out of Formula One. Anything else here about Yuki? No. No, this is all about upgrades and more interesting stuff. I'll leave the link up in the chat of this live stream later. Maybe I could do it now. So you can read the whole thing. Okay. See if that works. Because it's a really interesting article, but yeah, I don't want to sit here and read out a whole article. So I picked the bits that were about Yuki Tsunoda. Gentilius has a good point here. Some people perform better under pressure, some don't. Sink or swim, which seems like the trademark for Red Bull. Yeah, that's very true. But I tried to say this earlier that Yuki over the last 4 years, in the last 4 seasons, has surprised me many times, and every time I think he's not it, he's not good enough, he's only there because of Honda, he does something that surprises us, and he's very resilient because he probably reads the negative comments about himself as well, and he just he keeps trotting on and putting in good performances, and the previous V Carb car wasn't all that great last season's car, and then the 83, 2, and 1, they weren't great either. The AlphaTauri cars, but still, he managed to make an impression. And there's a super thanks with a question. Do you expect Yuki to see Q3 Red Bull front row? I think over the whole season we're going to see him in Q3 many times. And I think he'll get to the second row a few times as well. A front row is 1 or 2. That might be a little bit too much to ask. But see, if that Imola upgrade works, then we'll see him more to the front. And I'm sure that over the whole season, especially Max Verstappen, will be pushing for more upgrades. And if these upgrades do what they're intended to do, then we're going to see him much, much more up front. And then a front row, God, yeah, that would be quite something. But I think for Japan, it would be nice to see him start, I don't know, P13, P12, which is an improvement. Yeah, Q3, like 10th or 9th. Oh, God. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. Do I expect Yuki to see Q3? Over the whole season, there's 22 races left, and there's 5 more sprint qualifyings left as well. It could happen in one of those. Yeah, I'm going to be positive. Yeah. So let's finish this poll. Hey. What did I do here? I lost the chat. Oh yeah, it's gone. So answering my poll, is Yuki going to be successful at Red Bull? 62% think yes, and 37% says no. Yeah, that's pretty realistic. I wonder if I have another question here. Let me see. Race results. Yeah, Tsunoda was 10th. So he scored a point in his home country. And Max won. And Perez was 2nd. Those were the days. Now, here's something else that I found. Yuki Tsunoda is working with a psychologist. And he was asked if he was still doing that. And Yuki Tsunoda said, actually, I did that until Formula 2, but I still have someone who helps me, sometimes when I feel alone or emotionally down. Just to talk, to recover, that's it. He helps me when I need it. So much happens within a racing team. It can be quite unstable sometimes. But I know what to do. Outside of that, there are sometimes things I struggle with, like any other person. An argument with friends, love problems, just the normal things. But to be completely honest, I'm happy with how I am now and how things are going. So yeah, I think that was quite kind of brave as well for him, to talk about um, yeah, getting help from a professional to see him uh, be his best. That's what you do. When you want to get the best out of yourself. Um, I went to an AA group for 5 years, and that was sort of the equivalent of going to your shrink because you could tell all your issues there. And yeah, many people have different places where they can pour their heart out, and Yuki Tsunoda does it with a professional, which is cool. Um, Let me see if I can get up Yuki Tsunoda's results. So Yuki Tsunoda, um, he scored 6 points in Australia in 2024 because he finished seventh, and then in Japan he scored a point. In China he DNF'd. I don't remember how that went. In Miami he scored 7 points, so he probably had fastest lap as well then. And then he scored another point in Emilia Romagna. He finished 8th in Monaco. Then in Canada he finished 14th. In Spain he finished 19th. In Austria he finished 14th. Then in Great Britain he scored a point again in P10. In Hungary he scored 2 points. Then in Belgium and in the Netherlands he was terrible, 16th and 17th. And then in Italy and Azerbaijan he DNF'd. In Singapore he was 12th. In the United States he was 14th. In Mexico he DNF'd. That was the crash with Albon. But then in Brazil he found his groove again and he finished 7th. In Las Vegas he finished 9th. And then in Qatar and Abu Dhabi he was 13th and 12th. So it doesn't say what position he finished in the overall standings. So for how bad the V Carb 1, that's what the car was called, for how bad it was, I think Yuki Tsunoda had a very decent season last season. He some races his peaks were pretty high, and well, let's just hope that in the Red Bull he keeps his head together, and he knows how to push himself to a position where he scores more points than everybody expected. That would be nice for him. And ideally, we'd see Lawson perform much better in that seat as well. And then Isaac Hadjar also performing way better. And then, yeah, let's hope that the two Red Bull teams will have a positive season altogether. Because it's what we need. Um, yeah. So, are there any more questions? And let me see if I can find more news on Twitter. He's so tiny. Look. There's Yuki. That's a life-size picture. So, Gentilis asked me, will McLaren continue to be fastest? Well, my prediction is that the McLaren car will be trickier and trickier to drive, something Lando Norris is already complaining about. And that will make things very hard on both the McLaren drivers because they're not Max. Gentilis wants to know, what are the expectations for Japan? Red Bull has already said that there's going to be no new upgrades till Imola. So, hopefully in the sim they found out stuff to help the setup window. But yeah, no, they're not going to be the fastest team. And a podium for Max is like the maximum. At this stage of the season, they just need to stay close. So that's my expectation. Bravo Johnny says, I find it strange the difference between the two Red Bulls' performance over this length of time. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, Bravo Johnny. Hank says, McLaren will still be fastest with a small margin. Yeah, that's what I think as well. Bravo Johnny says, is there an element of component saving swapping going on? I don't know what you mean by that either. Like, teams want to make their components last as long as possible, and do you mean swapping back to old specs because they might be easier to use, or? Thank you, Vegas. Have a great Saturday, because I know it's still early there. And thanks for the super tanks. And yeah, I'll see you next week again. Hey, Mihai. And there's Jasper from Unraced F1. Yeah. 8 o'clock, Jasper. 8 o'clock every Saturday night. Well, almost every Saturday night. Gentile says there will sometimes be some situations where the lead driver gets access to upgrades earlier, but that's uncommon and usually the cars are equal except for some driver preference on settings. Yeah, well, with the cost cap, we have seen this more often, where where an upgrade is ready, but only one specification. So they put it on the fastest driver's car to test it out. Except at Aston Martin, it's Lance Stroll that gets it first. Oh, you were having a walk. It's nice weather to have a walk. I bet you had a cigar as well on Raised F1. Because I know that's what you like. Let me see if I can find anything from Yuki. Yeah, this looks cool as well. I need to show you this picture. See? See how good he looks in the Oracle Red Bull Racing suit? Oh, I put the chat down. On Race F1, I never listen to Olaf Mol anymore. I always listen to during the race. I listen to the international feed, which is Martin Brundle and David Crofty, and yeah, I watch the weekend warm up with Laura Winter and stuff. I don't watch any Dutch Formula One. Hello, Marcel M. I'm gonna quit in a couple of minutes, but still nice of you to join. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock Dutch time, so 7 o'clock Dutch time. 7 o'clock English time for you, Marcel. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to talk about concerning Yuki. I just hope and pray for the kid to have a massive great season, that he gets whatever he wants. And I hope for Liam Lawson that he can redeem himself and that he feels absolutely fine after a couple of races in Racing Bull, and that he gets a big, massive career out of what he showcases at Racing Bull. And so far, Isaac Ajar has been really good as well, except for the crash on the formation lap. So yeah, I expect good things for Red Bull in the long run. And yeah, that's how I'm gonna leave you all. Guys, check out my latest video because it's a banger. When I started this live stream, it was doing like 350 views an hour, which I haven't had in a while. Lots of new subscribers as well. So hopefully, maybe at the end of the week or in 2 weeks' time, I can hit 4K subscribers. And I'll be here again next week. I'm pretty sure I'll do an 8 o'clock in the evening live stream again. The last time I did a live stream during a qualifying session, a lot of people didn't show up, so I'm not doing that anymore. Mihai says Liam FP3 P6. Okay, well, it's only a free practice session, but that would be nice. Right, everybody. Have a happy weekend and see you all next week when it's race weekend in Japan. Take care now. Doei doei.